I'm sure you're here because you want to know the best, easiest, and most fun way you can level your Necromancer in Diablo 4. Well, good news, that's what I'm here to show you. But before we do that, I do ask you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Okay, with that out of the way, let's jump over and I'll show you exactly what I want you to do. Here we are. We are going to go over the gears and skills section first. For your helmet, I want you to use the Aspect of Disobedience. What that does, it gives you 0.25 to 0.5% increased armor for 4 seconds when you deal any form of damage, stacking up to 25 to 50%. Right there at the bottom, it tells you where to unlock it, Halls of the Damned. For your gloves, use the Unyielding Commander's Aspect. What that gets you, while the Army of the Dead is active, your minions gain 70 to 100% attack speed and take 90% reduced damage. For your weapon, for the socketed items, use the green gems or the emeralds, or a variation of that. That gets you 12% critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. For the armor, use the ruby or a variation of the ruby for the socket in the armor. That gets you 4% maximum life. If you don't have a full ruby, you'll have to use a lesser, a chipped ruby, a cracked one, whatever, but as long as it's a red gem that's going in the armor. For your jewelry, use the skull. That gets you plus 250. That will go in like your rings and your necklace, okay? For your amulet, the aspect to use is the splintering aspect. What that does is it gets your Bone Spear's primary attack, makes enemies hit beyond the first vulnerable for 1.5 to 2.5 seconds. Bone shards from Bone Spear deal 50 to 100% bonus damage to vulnerable enemies and pierce them. For the ring, use Aspect of Torment. What that does, critical strikes with bone skills increase your essence regeneration by 20 to 30% for 4 seconds. For the ring 2, use Requiem Aspect. You gain 3 to 5 maximum essence per active minion. For your skills, these are the skills you're going to be using. Corpse Tendrils, Army of the Dead, Raised Skeleton, Golem, Bone Splinters, and Bone Spear. For your skeleton warriors, you want to use the Reapers. Select the first slot. You want upgrade 1. What that does, Reapers attack against enemies who are immobilized, slowed, stunned, or vulnerable. Reduce the cooldown of their powerful wind-up attack by 2 seconds. For your skeletal mages, use the middle one, the Cold. Cold mages' attack will chill enemies, eventually freezing them in their tracks. Use upgrade 1. Each time your cold mages damage enemies with their primary attack, you gain 2 essence. For your golem, use the middle one, or the blood golem. Drains life from nearby enemies to heal and bolster itself. Use upgrade 2. While healthy, your blood golem gains 25% damage reduction and 50% increased damage. Okay, that's a brief overview of the gears and skills. Let's jump over to the skill tree. Remember, this is for levels 1 through 50. Okay, for the skill tree, this is what we want you to do. Bone Splinters, 1 point into Bone Splinters. Go to the next one, Enhanced Bone Splinters. And then go to this one, Acolyte's Bone Splinters. Hitting the same enemy at least 3 times with the same cast of Bone Splinters grants 8% critical strike chance for 4 seconds. That'll unlock the next path here. We come down here. I want you to do Unliving Energy. Your maximum essence is increased by 3. And then Imperfectly Balanced. Your core skills cost 9% more essence, but deal 15% increased damage. 3 skill points into that one, 1 into Unliving Energy. For your Bone Spear, all 5 of those, you want to max out that one. Conjure a bone spear from the ground, dealing 119% damage and piercing through enemies. Once that's done, come over here, Enhanced Bone Spear. Bone Spear breaks into 3 shards when it is destroyed, dealing 25% damage. And then come to this one, Paranormal Bone Spear. Bone Spear has a 5% increased critical strike chance. If Bone Spear's primary projectile critically strikes, it fires 2 additional bone shards upon being destroyed. Bone shard is very powerful. Hewed Flesh is the next one to do. Lucky hit. Your damage has up to a 12% chance to create a corpse at the target's location. This chance is doubled against bosses. Come on to the next layer.
What did he say?
Next spot, Skeletal Warrior Mastery. All 3 skill points into that one. Increase the damage and life of your skeletal warriors by 45%. Grim Harvest. Consuming a corpse generates 6 essence. Do all 3 skill points into that one. Fueled by Death. You deal 9% increased damage for 6 seconds after consuming a corpse. All 3 skill points into that one. Come over to here. Come up here. Death's Embrace. Close enemies take 6% more damage from you and deal 9% less damage to you. All 3 skill points into that one. Skeletal Mage Mastery. Increase the damage and life of your skeletal mages by 60%. All 3 points into that one. Let's move on to the next one. Corpse Tendrils. Veins burst out of a corpse, pulling enemies in, stunning them for 3 seconds, and dealing 20% damage to them. Does not consume the corpse. 1 skill point into that one. Come up. Enhanced Corpse Tendrils. 1 skill point into that one. Enemies who are in range of corpse tendrils are slowed by 50% before being pulled. And go to the right. Plagued Corpse Tendrils. Enemies damaged by corpse tendrils are made vulnerable for 3 seconds. Down here, we want Serration. Your bone skills have a plus 0.9% increased critical strike chance for each 10 essence you have upon cast. Compound Fracture. We want all 3 skill points in Serration. Compound Fracture. After critically striking 10 times with bone skills, your bone skills deal 5% increased damage for 5 seconds. 1 skill point into that one. Evulsion. Your bone skills deal 18% increased critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. 3 skill points into that one. Let's move on to the next layer. Come up here. We want Golem Mastery. All 3 skill points into that one. Increase the damage and life of your golem by 75%. Over here, we want the Army of the Dead. It's an ultimate. Call forth from the deep buried dead. Volatile skeletons emerge over the next 7 seconds that explode when around enemies, dealing 45% damage. Fully upgrade that path. We want Prime Army of the Dead. When Army of the Dead's volatile skeletons explode, they have a 15% chance to leave behind a corpse. Supreme Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead also raises your skeletal warriors and skeletal mages. Inspiring Leader. All 3 skill points into that one. After you have been healthy for at least 4 seconds, you and your minions gain plus 12% attack speed. And then Hellbent Commander. Your minions deal 30% increased damage when you are close to them. All 3 skill points into that one. And then Death's Defense. 1 skill point here. Your minions cannot lose more than 60% of their maximum life from a single damage instance. And then Bonded in Essence. 2 skill points in this one. Every 5 seconds, your Skeletal Priest healing will heal your skeletons for an additional 40% of their maximum life. And then the final area. We want Ossified Essence. Your bone skills deal times 1% increased damage for each point of essence you have above 50 upon cast. Okay, as you're leveling, go through this, follow that path, and I assure you, your path from 1 through 50 will be fun, and it won't be too much of a challenge. It's a great build. This is the best one that I've found so far, and it's the one that I like for the minions. And I remind you that it is a level 1 through 50 build only. I'm on World Tier 2, and this is working great for me, and I expect it will work great for you if you follow this guide.